Justin Coppola, quick and athletic, out of Garden City on Long Island, won 15 of 28, 54% last week in the win over Penn State against Nick Ramsey out of Del Barton. Of course, lots of guys from Villanova come from that school year after year. Villanova gets the ground ball, and the Wildcats have it on attack, led by Pat Dale, because they play the same system every year, Danny.
Yale trusts their defensive personnel. A lot of times what we saw there, they had a shorty on an attackman, so they went, or at least went halfway. But when they're matched up on their assignments, they're definitely going to be slow to slide.
Nick Ramsey won 54% of his draws last year. Number 8 in blue, trying to corral it for Yale, who's always scrappy, a good ground ball team. They're loaded at depth at midfield. They have tons of pulls, especially Jack Stewson, number 10, who was the number 1 defensive recruit a couple years back. As you see a scrum for it there. And Brett Molly, the junior out of Philadelphia and LaSalle College High School, able to get it to Yale's prolific attack. Matt Brand in goals scored. He's top 10 in assists, and that's 190 points, which is 4th best in Yale history. As Justin Coppola able to win it there against Machado Rodriguez. Remember, in the snowstorm game won by Yale last year at Reese Stadium, the team that had the win did better in the different quarters, as Villanova has possession here.
Reality.
3 assists against Penn State last week. And talking with the Villanova coaches this week, Danny, they really highlighted Mason Reale because of his vision. He can score and he can feed, and he's an important player for Villanova going forward.
Absolutely, especially if he's drawing a short stick. I love the way, he plays with his head up. He's patient. He never seems rushed when he has the ball, and really controls the tempo of the offense.
Justin Coppola goes and gets it. All Big East.
He's really become more of a patient player. He's not forcing the issue as much as he was, and letting the game come to him.
Villanova does an excellent job on the recruiting trail, as we'll get a push here, and Villanova will get it. They find guys out of New Hampshire like Matt Licata, and finding athleticism in Tucker Goodell out of North Carolina. Number of games that are on Saturday every weekend, obviously. These Sunday games suddenly have a lot of eyes on you, and Villanova with a violation, hence Yale will get the ball. About Chris Lyons. He emerged in the second half of the season last year when Yale, another good season, had 12 wins, made the quarterfinals. Lyons was dealing with a diabetes issue, so he wasn't ready at the start of the year. They plugged him in once Ivy League play started, and boy, he took off. It's nice when a coaching move like that pays off, Danny.
Absolutely, and you love hearing, being able to come back from, unfortunate diagnosis, come back even stronger and have success.
Unsettled offense and tic-tac-toe passing. That was beautiful for Yale. A great finish again by Chris Lyons, as Yale in their first game looking at Leo Johnson, number 6, the lefty, get a touch. He had 35 goals and 29 assists last year. There's Nick Ramsey winning the faceoff. He's 54% in his career. Was thinking about going D3 to just be a student because of his academics, according to Andy Shea. A couple of goals for Chris Lyons, and he had 4 game winners last season. Justin Coppola going against Ramsey and Machado today. Coppola wins it himself, but a nice trail check that time by Yale to force the turnover. Nick Ramsey helps in transition, the faceoff specialist. Patrick Hackler, number 26. Is he a state last year? So Daly knows about shining in big moments, as Coppola against Ramsey, who wins it here. Do we have a push, Danny?
I missed it, but it looks like it's going Villanova's way.
So the call in favor of the Wildcats as they get that time, as Justin Coppola and Nick Ramsey duel here. They've changed the face-off rules so many times, Danny. How challenging has it been for these specialists to contour to the rules? You have 4 dudes from California.
Insane. And weren't you telling me last week that Villanova has more guys from California than Long Island? That can't be true.
It is true indeed. He had 99 points, the second most in Yale single-season history. We mentioned in the Open his 5.8 points per game last year was number 2 in the nation, only behind Brendan Nichtern of Army, who led the entire country. As Justin Coppola gets the face-off win again for the home team.
It's a big
for one defensive recruit from Baltimore a couple seasons ago, and Matt Campbell in his 5th year on the Tewaaraton watch list, preseason first-team All-American, now has a goal in 17 straight games. Second-team All-American last year, as he had 45 goals, the second most in Villanova's single-season history, and now in his career, that's 122 goals for mighty Matt Campbell. and he is 4th in school history. Past a former teammate on some of those lists.
I don't know. I don't think I did much passing in my career, so I don't know. I don't know what to tell you there. But I can ask Christian Cuccinell. I know he passed a lot of guys when we played together. He's definitely up high on those lists, so I'll have to check in with him.
Our first penalty flag of the game. That was a nice pun there, Danny. You weren't much of a passer. I get it. We'll see.
Absolutely, and those guys are really just the ones, pure athletes, right, that are able to, get up and down the field, play defense as well as they play offense, and that's a, true testament to.
And 8th options for both of these teams are awfully pretty good.
It's definitely easier said than done, I'll tell you that, from what we've seen so far today. Both Brandau and Matt Campbell getting on the score sheet.
Machado Rodriguez taking the face-off. As remember, he did well later in the second half when Yale beat Villanova last year when Ramsey was struggling a little bit. Yale peppers it and throws it high. Results last year with plenty of goals, beating Villanova in their opener. Had kind of a funny loss at Penn State, but good wins over Princeton, battled Cornell very well. The Ivy League was dominant last year. Now, people were upset, Danny, that Notre Dame didn't make the NCAA tournament, but they don't use eye tests as much. The selection committee is...
Again, Dan Martin on your first career goal. Many more to come.
It seems like there's a story every year with a Villanova player who emerges, and a lot of times they're not on the scouting report, as we've mentioned that a couple of times. As Villanova recruits so well and develops their own players every year, Danny.
Yeah, and Dan Martin, I heard a lot of praise.
For so many years, their offense certainly has been on top of their game, no matter who the production comes from. 296 goals in that wonderful 2019 season when they got here to Philadelphia and thumped Penn State in the semifinals before losing in the title game. Obviously in Foxborough in 2018, Yale winning the national. Did very well at the face-off dot, winning 12 of 21, and then Ramsey making some adjustments, winning 8 of 18, plus Machado Rodriguez, who did well against Villanova last year in the second half of the Eli's victory against Villanova during that snowstorm. He won 1 of 3, and it will be Justin Coppola and Nick Ramsey dueling once again, as Trip Robinson will be on one wing for Villanova against Jack Montfort, the shorty, and Jack Stuzen on the other wing against Jack. Tie throughout the duration of this ball game, as Villanova's defense needs to help out Will Vuitton. You would think a little bit more, as the lefty goalie has just 5 saves and 31% after a standout performance against Penn State. With Coppola winning another face-off, Villanova is certainly due to get the ball plenty. The special against BU, had 3 and 3 against St. Joe's during that very tricky NCAA tournament game that Yale won 18-16, despite Zach Cole, the great star All-American face-off guy for the Hawks, winning 22 of 37 that day. And then eventually it was James Ball that went 8 of 13 in the second half, as Andy Shea had to try something. That's knocked away by Villanova. Good trail check, 50-50 ball here between both teams. Who wants it? It's Reed Caldwell who grabs it. Leo Johnson took it away. Now passes the Lions and score.
Facing such high percentage shots, really needs some help from the defense.
3 goals against Villanova last year for Leo Johnson. This time he has 3 assists. As Justin Coppola wins the face-off, then slipped down. Villanova trying to avoid offsides, but we get a call.
Holding on Yale.
Won Yale in 2019. Connor Kerr's game-winning goal in overtime. T.D. Erlin won 18 of 25 that day, but Villanova won in overtime. So it's not always the most important. 3 assists today. You're seeing what Johnson can do well. He's obviously an elite dodger and scorer, but he can feed with the best of them. And now we see Nick Ramsey winning a face-off. Did he throw it out of bounds? Was he checked from behind?
Yes, he did. And that definitely gets him out of his groove.
Tucker Goodell out of the Charlotte area had 10 goals last season, an important marker that time for Villanova, as Nick Ramsey against Coppola, who goes to get it, quick and athletic. He gets pushed and earns Villanova another chance at the ball.
Yep, now Villanova, right, can try to play a little bit of make it, take it.
Last season, as the faceoffs were even, and whoever had the win last year, Leo Johnson 3 goals, Matt Brandau had 5, Brad Sharp had a couple goals. Ramsey won 7 of 17 faceoffs. Machado came in and won 10 of 17. It was even at the end of the day, and this time it's Yale who wins the draw. and healthy at the beginning of 2022, but he took over. Ramsey wins the faceoff. He had a really good finish. There's Stu's in the pole, a stick check by David Ivanchik. Just as you see, Villanova getting opportunities, getting some ground balls, some 50-50s, and the extra man, Paquette, has been dazzling with 15 saves. As we'll see Coppola against Ramsey. Coppola wins it for Villanova. One of the premier face-off guys in the country, wins his 17th of the day.
And right, that's the first step.
Spikes.
I'll tell you what, I would not be up for that task.
The shoe guy in charge of equipment, Danny, is that what you're saying?
No, trying to guard Matt Licata.
Or putting on different shoes. Is that not your favorite part of playing?
No, I stuck with one.
Team will be playing here on the Villanova Sports Network as a part of a doubleheader. 3:30 against St. Joseph's in the home opener for Jill Batchelor and the Wildcats, who beat William and Mary on the road last weekend. They have some California kids, especially Elena Torres, who can score it big time as a dodging midfielder. It's very neat to see the number of goals that can be scored. A lot of lacrosse DNA in his body, and he got healthy last year, as we talked about his story, and he emerged once Ivy League play commenced last year, and eventually at the start of the season and by the end of the three, his points per game was second best to Brendan Nickturn. His 47 goals was third most in a single season history. He poured in 5 goals in the snowstorm win against Villanova, and another standout day as Jack Stu's in the pole, goes to get it off the wing on the face-off. And then Nick Ramsey, who's done much better in the second half. It's still Will Vuitton, who's done and won faceoffs at a very high level. 19th best in the country. Maybe not the amount that Thomas Bragg had of 14 man-up goals that led the country. For the faceoff there, it's Scott Mackey, the freshman out of Iona Prep in Larchmont, Long Island, taking it for Villanova. Very talented Fogo recruit for Villanova. You see him fighting for the ball. 37 in white for Villanova. And now we're seeing some pushing and shoving. Brody Laporte pushed somebody. Now Yale sideline getting into it. And the chippiness of this rivalry taking over.
Yeah, and in a game 20-14, it's a little bit out of hand. Your frustrations can get the best of you. You really don't like to see that coming down this late in the game.
Along the sideline, Daly trying to save it. And there's Mackey, the freshman. Did he get pushed a couple times? It looks like pretty clean plays. Yale's coming after the ball. Now, maybe there's a push, and maybe that's why Villanova got upset, perhaps, Danny.
Yeah,